Hello everyone. This video class is on broad spectrum antibiotics. Broad spectrum antibiotics are those antimicrobial agents which have broad coverage on bacteria. So they are effective against gram-positive as well as gram-negative bacteria, cocci as well as bacilli, aerobic as well as anaerobic bacteria. Today, a number of antimicrobial agents are included in this category like tetracycline, chloramphenicol, third generation cephalosporins, second generation fluoroquinolones, newer macrolides, etc. But traditionally, tetracycline and chloramphenicol were considered as broad spectrum antibiotics. Rest of the drugs we have already covered in different classes. This video class is mainly focused on tetracyclines and chloramphenicol. Available tetracyclines can now be classified into older tetracyclines and newer agents. The older agents, that is tetracycline, oxytetracycline, temiclocycline, they are less soluble agents with lower potency, while doxycycline, minocycline, these are the newer tetracyclines which are having higher lipid solubility and higher potency. Minocycline is the most potent agent among tetracyclines. First of all, let us discuss the mechanism of action of tetracyclines. Tetracyclines belong to group of antibiotics which act by inhibiting protein synthesis in bacteria. The protein synthesis machinery include 30S ribosome, 50S ribosome and mRNA template. There are two sites on this polysome, the P site and the A site. The A site accepts amino acyl tRNA according to the codon on the mRNA, while the P site has attached the nascent polypeptide chain. So during protein synthesis, the newer amino acyl tRNA first binds to the A site according to the codon on the mRNA template. Then the nascent polypeptide chain which is attached to the P site gets transferred to the amino acyl tRNA, that is from P site to A site, and there is peptide bond formation between the new amino acyl and the nascent polypeptide chain. After that, the elongated nascent polypeptide chain translocates from A site back to P site, and the ribosome transfers forward, it moves forward on the mRNA. So, a number of antibiotics acts on this machinery. First of all, tetracyclines. Tetracyclines bind to 30S ribosome and they inhibit the binding of amino acyl tRNA to the A site. As a result, the peptide chain cannot grow further. While chloramphenicol, they bind to 50S ribosome and they inhibit the transfer of nascent polypeptide chain from P site to A site and subsequent peptide bond formation. While antibiotics like macrolides and clindamycin, they also bind to 50S ribosome, but they inhibit the translocation of the elongated peptide chain from A site back to P site. Aminoglycoside are antibiotics which bind to multiple sites to 30S as well as 50S ribosome. They inhibit initiation of protein synthesis, they inhibit polysome formation as well as they cause misreading of mRNA. So, tetracyclines bind to 30S ribosome. They inhibit binding of amino acyl tRNA to A site, and as a result, peptide chain fails to elongate. As we know that tetracyclines are broad spectrum antibiotics, so they have coverage on a large number of bacteria, but they are primarily bacteriostatic antibiotics, that is they only inhibit the growth of bacteria, the multiplication of bacteria, but they do not kill the bacteria. Initially, they were effective against all types of bacteria, that is gram-positive as well as gram-negative, cocci, bacilli, aerobic, anaerobic bacteria. But due to rampant use of tetracyclines, there was development of resistance, and at present, many bacteria have developed resistance against tetracycline antibiotics. So, the bacteria which are still sensitive to this group of antibiotics include among cocci, Streptococcus pyogenes, Staph aureus, including MRSA, that is methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, Enterococci, Neisseria, meningitidis, as well as Neisseria gonorrhoeae are still sensitive to tetracyclines. Most gram-positive bacilli are highly sensitive against to tetracycline, that is Clostridia, Listia, Corynebacterium, Propionibacterium, Bacillus anthracis. Gram-negative bacilli, that is Enterobacteriaceae group, is mainly has become resistant against tetracyclines, but still some of them are sensitive to tetracycline, that include Haemophilus, Vibrio, and Yersinia. Some atypical bacteria like spirochetes, rickettsia, mycoplasma, actinomyces, they are highly sensitive to tetracyclines. Moving on to pharmacokinetics of tetracyclines. The older tetracyclines like tetracycline, oxytetracycline, they are partially water soluble and incompletely absorbed from intestine. Thus, they should be administered empty stomach. While the newer tetracyclines like toxi and minocycline, they are highly lipid soluble, so they are completely absorbed from intestine and their absorption is not affected by food. Tetracycline form chelating complexes with number of substances like iron, calcium, etc. So their administration should be avoided with milk, with iron preparations and drugs like antacid sucralfate. Tetracyclines are widely distributed in body and they get concentrated in liver, spleen, bones and teeth. Minocycline, as it is highly lipid soluble, it accumulates in body fat. They are mainly excreted via kidney and thus dose reduction is required in renal failure except in case of doxycycline, which is mainly excreted in feces. Tetracyclines are partly metabolized, they reaches bile and they undergo enterohepatic circulation. They are secreted in milk and thus they may affect infant. They crosses the placenta and thus they may also affect the fetus. Tetracyclines have number of adverse effects and some of them can be serious. This is one of the reasons why the use of tetracyclines has decreased nowadays. Tetracyclines are irritative in nature and thus they can cause irritative diarrhea. Diarrhea can also be due to superinfection. They can cause nausea, vomiting and painful swallowing, that is odynophagia. The capsules of tetracyclines can release toxic substances which can cause esophageal ulceration and odynophagia. They can cause fatty infiltration in the liver and sometimes jaundice. They are contraindicated in pregnant women as they can cause acute hepatic necrosis. They can cause kidney damage and thus their doses need to be decreased in patients of renal failure. Doxycycline is considered considerably safer in patients of renal failure. Outdated tetracyclines, that is those drugs which have passed their expiry date, if they are used, they can cause Fanconi-like syndrome, which is renal failure. So never use expired tetracyclines. As tetracyclines are deposited in teeth and bone tissue, so they may cause damage to teeth and bone. They may form calcium tetracycline chelate which are deposited in such tissues. It can affect the fetus if given to the pregnant woman as well as if given to the children of early age group. The teeth can get deformed, there can be staining of the teeth and in early years of children, if they are given for long time, there can be temporary suppression of bone growth. Tetracyclines can get deposited in the skin. They can cause phototoxicity, which is more common with doxycycline and demeclocycline, and usually it is in the form of sunburn on the exposed areas. Minocycline particularly can cause vestibular toxicity, which is usually reversible, and the symptoms may include ataxia, vertigo, nystagmus. Tetracyclines, if given to infants, may increase intracranial pressure. They have anti-anabolic effects, so they may increase the urea levels. They can cause hypersensitivity reactions in the form of skin rashes, urticaria, and even exfoliative dermatitis. And cross-sensitization is found between the members. So once a patient is hypersensitive to one type of tetracycline, better to avoid the other members of this group of antibiotics. As tetracyclines are effective against a broad range of bacteria, so they may cause superinfection due to suppression of the normal flora. Superinfection may be caused at many sites, but most common is intestinal infection with Candida, Pseudomonas, or Proteus. Rarely, there can be pseudomembranous enterocolitica, which is a serious type of superinfection and very difficult to treat. Doxycycline and minocycline, they are less liable to cause diarrhea due to superinfection. Can we guess why? Because doxycycline and minocycline are more lipid soluble, so they are better absorbed from upper intestine and less amount reaches to the large intestine. So less suppression of the normal flora present in the large intestine and less risk of superinfection with doxycycline and minocycline. So, among all the members of tetracyclines, which is safer in hepatic failure? Tetracycline and oxytetracycline are safer in patients of hepatic failure, while doxycycline is safer in patients of renal failure. So, as tetracycline causes a number of adverse effects, there are some precautions and contraindications which we have to keep in mind. They are contraindicated in pregnancy as they may cause acute hepatic necrosis, as well as they may cross the placenta and they may cause teeth and bone deformities in the fetus. They should not be given in lactating women for the same reason, as well as in children of early age group, because they may cause teeth and bone deformities. They are contraindicated in, not, we cannot say contraindicated, better to use the term precaution, that they should be used with precaution in patients of renal failure and hepatic failure. Tetracyclines which are past their expiry date, they should not be used. They should not be given as intramuscular or intrathecal injections, as intramuscular injection is very painful of tetracycline, and do not mix tetracycline with penicillin injection as it may cause inactivation of the. Coming on to uses of tetracycline. Because of number of adverse effect and because of development of resistance by many of the bacteria, the use of tetracycline has decreased in present times. The most commonly used tetracycline is doxycycline. The most important use of tetracycline, as it is a broad spectrum antibiotic, is empirical use of tetracyclines. Empirical treatment is given when we know that patient is having infection, but we are not sure that which bacteria is responsible for infection. This type of administration of antibiotic is known as empirical use of antibiotics. So when we are not sure that which bacteria is responsible and we want to give a coverage for most possible cause of bacteria at that site, in such cases tetracyclines can be used, like they can be used in possible mixed infections, but they are not dependable for serious and life-threatening infections. So we have much safer drugs available for that, like third generation cephalosporins or second generation fluoroquinolones, or a penicillin given in combination with aminoglycosides. Tetracyclines are still the first choice drugs in a number of venereal infections like chlamydial urethritis, endocervicitis, lymphogranuloma venereum, etc. They can be used for treatment of atypical pneumonia caused by Mycoplasma pneumoniae, though macrolides are preferred. They are still very effective in treatment of cholera, brucellosis, plague, and in treatment of atypical infections like relapsing fever and rickettsial infections. They can be used as a second choice or alternative choice in a number of infections like tetanus, anthrax, actinomycosis, listeria, gonorrhea, syphilis, leptospirosis, etc. In some infections like urinary tract infections, community and acquired infections, amoebiasis, they are used only when other less toxic drugs are ineffective or could not be given. Tetracyclines, particularly doxycycline, can be used in P. falciparum malaria in combination with quinine or artemisinin derivatives. They can be used in low doses for prolonged treatment of acne, as Propionibacterium is sensitive to tetracyclines, but safer alternatives are preferred. Glycylcyclines is the new class of synthetic tetracycline analogues, and the only drug available in this group is tigecycline, which is a derivative of minocycline. The mechanism of action of this group of antibiotic is same as that of tetracyclines, that is inhibition of protein synthesis via binding to 30S ribosome. Tigecycline has broadest spectrum and it is active against most bacteria resistant to tetracyclines. So it is active against most gram-positive and gram-negative cocci and bacilli, including MRSA, that is methicillin resistant Staph aureus, VRSA, that is vancomycin resistant Staph aureus, VRE, that is vancomycin resistant enterococci, and even anaerobes, but this drug is inherently not active against Pseudomonas and Proteus. So these two bacteria are not affected by glycylcyclines, but most other type of bacteria are inhibited by tigecycline. There is no cross resistance is seen between tetracyclines and tigecyclines, even though there is structural similarity and same mechanism of action. The reason is tetracycline efflux pumps, which pump out tetracyclines, they have low affinity for tigecycline. So they are not able to pump out tigecycline from bacterial cell. Similarly, ribosomal protection protein, which is responsible for protection against tetracyclines in bacteria, is less active in protecting tigecycline. So the most important resistant mechanisms for tetracycline, they are not so effective in case of tigecycline, and thus there is no cross resistance between these two group of antibiotics. Coming on to pharmacokinetics of tigecycline, it is poorly absorbed drug and thus it can be given only as a slow intravenous infusion. It is a long-acting drug with plasma half-life around 36 to 60 hours and eliminated mainly in bile. Thus, no dose reduction is required in renal diseases as compared to tetracyclines where dose reduction is required in renal failure. Tigecycline achieve low concentration in urine and thus it is not preferred for treatment of urinary tract infection. Tigecycline is approved only for treatment of serious community-acquired pneumonia, complicated skin and skin structure infections, and complicated intra-abdominal infections. So though it is a broad spectrum antibiotic and it can be used in a number of infections, but it is approved only for these particular type of infections, and it is not recommended for hospital acquired or ventilator associated chest infections or pneumonias, as in many studies higher risk of mortality was seen in group where tigecycline was given as compared to other antibiotics. And as we have seen, it is not suitable for urinary tract infection as it achieves low concentration in the urine. Adverse effects include nausea, vomiting, gastrointestinal distress, and diarrhea due to irritative action, hypersensitivity reactions, and photosensitivity. And similar to tetracycline, tigecycline can also cause superinfections. It is not recommended in pregnancy and children. So, some important points to remember about tetracyclines and glycylcyclines are: Tetracyclines are effective against broad spectrum of microorganisms, but many bacteria have developed resistance and there is a high risk of toxicity. Thus, their use has declined due to availability of safer alternatives. Doxycycline is most commonly used tetracycline antibiotic. Tigecycline is a newer agent with broadest spectrum and it is effective even against those which are resistant to tetracycline. Chloramphenicol is another broad-spectrum antibiotic which is mainly bacteriostatic, but it can act as cidal against H. influenzae and Neisseria meningitidis. The mechanism of action is it also acts by inhibiting protein synthesis, but it acts at another site different from that of the chloramphenicol binds to 50S ribosome and it inhibits the we can see here chloramphenicol binds to 50S ribosome and it inhibits the transfer of nascent peptide chain from P site to A site and also inhibits subsequent peptide bond formation. The spectrum of chloramphenicol is similar to tetracyclines with some exceptions that it was highly active against salmonella, but tetracyclines were not so active against salmonella. But nowadays resistance has developed against chloramphenicol also and thus chloramphenicol is no longer used in treatment of typhoid. Chloramphenicol is more active against H. influenzae, Neisseria meningitidis, Bordetella pertussis, Klebsiella and anaerobes as compared to tetracycline. It is less active against gram-positive cocci and spirochetes, and chlamydia, entamoeba and plasmodia are not affected by chloramphenicol while they are inhibited by tetracyclines. So there are some changes or some differences between the spectrum of tetracyclines and chloramphenicol, but overall both are broad spectrum antibiotics and both are bacteriostatic in nature. As chloramphenicol was initially when it was introduced, it was orally active drug, it was broad spectrum and it was comparatively cheaper drug. Thus, it was rampantly used and this has resulted into development of high grade resistance among many bacteria against chloramphenicol. Coming on to pharmacokinetics of chloramphenicol, it is rapidly and completely absorbed from intestine and attains high concentration in the CSF. Thus, it can be used in meningitis caused by H. influenzae or Neisseria meningitidis. It can cross placenta and it can be secreted in milk. Chloramphenicol is mainly eliminated through glucuronide conjugation in bile and thus dose reduction is required in patients of cirrhosis, liver failure and neonates who are deficient or who have poor conjugative ability. But no dose reduction is required here. Chloramphenicol is also having large number of adverse effects and most serious of them is bone marrow depression. It is among the most prominent cause of aplastic anemia, agranulocytosis, thrombocytopenia or pancytopenia. Two forms of bone marrow depressions have been seen with chloramphenicol. One is non-dose related, which is rare but unpredictable. It can be serious and even fatal. Another type is that of dose-related bone marrow depression, which is predictable and usually reversible, and it reverses after stopping the drug. Chloramphenicol can cause hypersensitivity reactions like rashes, fever, angioedema. It can cause irritative gastrointestinal effects like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Superinfection can be seen, but it is less common as compared to tetracycline. A unique adverse effect of chloramphenicol is gray baby syndrome. When it is given, it is seen when chloramphenicol is given in high doses to premature neonates. As we have seen that neonates are deficient in conjugative action, so they cannot properly metabolize chloramphenicol, which then achieves high concentration in the plasma. The baby may stop feeding, may become hypotonic, hypothermic. There is ashen gray cyanosis seen in the baby. Ultimately, it may result into cardiovascular collapse and death of the neonate, and thus chloramphenicol is contraindicated in neonates. The uses of chloramphenicol has largely declined due to high risk of toxicity and development of resistance. It should never be used for minor infection, should not be given repeatedly, and the daily dose should not be more than 2 to 3 gram, and duration should always be less than 2 weeks. Regular blood counts need to be done to monitor bone marrow toxicity, and combined formulations with other antibiotics is banned in our country. Chloramphenicol can be used in bacterial meningitis caused by H. influenzae or Neisseria meningitidis, as it can attain high CSF concentration, but it is a second choice for treatment of such infections. It can be used in anaerobic infections caused by Bacteroid fragilis, but again as a second choice drug. Chloramphenicol can be used in intraocular infections as it attains high intraocular concentration. It is a preferred drug for endophthalmitis caused by sensitive bacteria. Chloramphenicol previously was used in enteric fever, and it was the first antibiotic to be used for treatment of typhoid fever, but due to development of high grade of resistance, it is not used now. It can be used as a second choice in treatment of brucellosis and rickettsial infection, and as a topical therapy it can be used for external ear infection, but topical chloramphenicol should not be used at other sites because of the risk of sensitization. So at the end, I hope all of you are not terrified by corona epidemic and are regularly reading and studying. So keep yourself positive and be ready for life and its challenges ahead. Thank you.